This segment of DelmarvaLife is brought to you by Tunnell Raysor.
All righty, take a good close look at this, okay? What would you do if you had to look at that every day? An overgrown vacant lot, weeds everywhere, nobody's taking care of it. Well, this Philadelphia developer says he tried to get the city to do something about it, but he got frustrated. He took matters into his own hands. He spent $20,000 of his own money. He cleaned up the property himself, and guess what? Now he's in trouble, as the city of Philadelphia is accusing him of trespassing. Many of us have been there, whether it's a home that's been abandoned or it's in foreclosure. We've seen those properties in complete disarray. They're neglected, they're completely overrun with weeds, the grass is a mile high, it's nothing but an eyesore. We want to do something, cut the grass, pull the weeds. But is this case proof that maybe we shouldn't be taking matters into our own hands? Well, joining us today to help us better understand that is attorney Kelly Geloff, managing partner of Tunnell and Raysor in Sussex County. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I've been there. How many of us have actually been there? This guy was trying to clean up an eyesore, but he only landed himself in trouble. Really? Why?
It happens because I know that there's a big story behind it, but generally speaking, if you are told not to go onto somebody's property, whether it's public or private, it's considered trespass, even if you go on it. Never mind actually making it look the way you want it to look.
Right.
It looked horrible, and many of us have seen that, where it looks terrible and you just want to go on and take care of it, but it unfortunately can turn on you.
So from what we can tell, this guy knew he wasn't supposed to be on there.
That is my understanding in that situation, which happens oftentimes, because oftentimes neighbors may get into a dispute saying your place looks horrible, can you do something about it? They say, don't you dare come on my property. They do anyway,
yeah.
And that's when the issue becomes a big issue.
So there are certain property rights. It can come into a nuisance situation.
Certainly, and every situation is very different. In this situation, trespass, you mentioned that actually can become a criminal issue as well as a civil issue. The homeowner or the property owner can report you for going onto the property and request that a criminal action be taken against you because you were told not to go on the property. From that, you can then be responsible for making payments, for having to pay for the property to get back into the ugly condition. That could come from a criminal matter.
Put it back the way it was?
Put it back the way it was.
Goodness.
Or at least as ugly or horrible as it was before, or at least tear down whatever you did do. If in this situation, I understand that they had taken some garbage off, right. And now it looks beautiful, and that's a problem.
And that's a problem.
And that's a problem because in this situation is the opinion of the city that they now have more of an issue or potentially more liability because more people are going to that property than before when it was ugly and eyesore. People weren't really interested.
Okay, so help me here. Define for me what trespassing is so I'll know.
Generally speaking, trespass is when you go onto someone else's property when you know you should not be going on the property. And that oftentimes you go by the properties, especially in Sussex County, you'll see no trespassing, no hunting, no posted. Clearly, that's trespassing. If you have a verbal or a written warning that says no trespassing, or you are not invited on my property, you as a neighbor, oftentimes you just go up to the door and knock. If you're told, I don't want you on my property, and you come on that property, that's technically trespassing. But when it comes down to actually going on and mowing someone else's grass, right, and then sending them a bill, for instance, that's a problem. That can be considered trespass. And you can be held responsible if you do something that you shouldn't have been doing on their property.
If there's no sign, if there's not a posted sign, if nobody's told me not to do it, and I want to cut my neighbor's grass just out of kindness for them because it looks so ratty and making my house look bad too, if there's not a notice, if there's not a communication of some kind, is that still trespassing?
Then it really becomes, it depends. If the neighbor welcomes it, then certainly not. And that's one of those gray areas where you're just not sure. So you really want to know what you're getting yourself into, at least what the ramifications could be if you do go onto somebody else's property.
So what can I do? Can I file a lawsuit? Is there something I can do to try to make them clean it up?
Again, every situation is different. It really depends. If we're talking about a neighbor situation, oftentimes if you're within a development, the development has a homeowner association, there are bylaws, there are specific rules, and if those are being broken, you as a neighbor will be able to figure out the path for you to take, where you would then potentially go to the homeowner association and request that they do something about it. Oftentimes there are height limits on your grass. That's when the association will step in, or the property management will step in and say, you either take it down or you're going to pay a defined amount of money, $50, because we're going to make sure we cut your grass, for instance.
So if I feel like indeed they are affecting my property value because of how bad nasty it is, there is a way to go. I just got to do it the right way.
You have to do it the right way. There oftentimes is a way to go, but you have to look into whether or not there is a law or a code or some kind of a violation that has occurred that's in existence.
Right.
And if not, if you're just sort of a neighbor out on a street that has nothing in particular and they're not doing anything that has violated the state code or the county code or something, it just looks ugly and there's nothing specific that speaks to it, then you're in a problem, and you have a situation where you're going to have to then figure out and get some help to maybe change that situation.
Gotcha. Or see if there's a violation that you just have to do research. Kelly
Right.
DelmarvaLife, thank you so much for joining us for
welcome.
that. Fascinating. It opened my eyes, that's for sure. Well, a lot of helpful information that you can absolutely use, and still to come on DelmarvaLife. When a child gets sick and has to be hospitalized, you ever heard of the Ronald McDonald House of Delaware? They offer a home away from home for that child's family. Up next on DelmarvaLife, how you too can help these kids and their families find comfort. DelmarvaLife, life at its best here on Delmarva.